Yaşadığımız dünyanın dinamikleri hızla dönüşürken dijital kavramı tam da merkezde yer alıyorken bu kez tasarım nerede, nasıl şekilleniyor? Gelin birlikte bakalım. Çok değerli bir ismi sahneye davet ediyorum. Yarının ikonlarını tasarlamak, Üstün Tasarımın Geleceğin Otomobillerine kattığı Gizli, Değer temasıyla konuşmasını yapmak üzere Sayın Stephenson Design Tasarım Direktörü Sayın Stephenson'i sahneye davet ediyorum. Değerli katılımcılar, tercüme için kulaklıkların 1. kanalını kullanmanızı rica ederiz. Welcome to our conference.
Merhaba ve günaydın. My name is Stephenson, and I am a designer. Today, I want to make your lives a little bit happier, a little bit more colorful, a little bit more enjoyable. Before I came in, I was talking for a moment about how so many things are very difficult in the world at the moment. Not that we are all depressed, but things could be a lot better. We need to see the world with a much more optimistic view. And I want to start my speech with this conference with a little bit of, like I said, optimism about how things in the world can become, at least from a visual point of view, a little bit more enjoyable. And I want to talk today, first of all, about designing the icons of tomorrow. That means things that we see, we fall in love with, we remember them, and we like to keep them very close to us. So I am, like I said, designer. I've been designing cars, mostly automobiles, for the last, well, for more than 30 years. It's, again, a huge pleasure for me to be here today to speak about this. I spent most of my teenage years, most of the 1970s, living here in Istanbul. So I'm a little bit sorry that I was not able to remember the language so much. I spoke it a little bit better when I was young. Now I have to speak most of the time in English, but you will understand me, I think. I will speak quite slowly and clearly, I hope. So my career started, like I said, in the 80s when I left university, and I've been through many car companies, many design studios, from the beginning until recently, say 5 years ago. I've gone from the very bottom of the design studio to the very top of the design studios, from the very, let's call it A to Z, or the basic, we call them bread and butter cars, all the way to the top level of the automotive segment, which are what we call the hypercars, the very special cars. And here I don't want to go into each one, of course, but you will see the range of cars that I have designed from the beginning of my career until the last years in the automotive industry. Creating along the way, especially at the end, the brand language, the brand identity for a new car company, which was McLaren. Of course, they were race cars, and then they became an automotive industry, and we created also this new identity, I guess you could say, for McLaren. After that, I decided to create my own design company and get into a world of design that was a little bit, say, more exciting, more adventurous, more risk, of course, but something that for me was a way to grow to a next level. And that is with the future of transportation, which are what we call eVTOL aircraft, electric vertical takeoff and landing. These are the new flying taxis that will come to you in 2025. 2 years from now, I guarantee you that you will be able to see aircraft like this flying in the skies, mostly in the major cities around the world. But as we progress into the next decades after that, they become more common in smaller cities and rural-to-rural communities. It's a way to improve traffic, a way to, or alleviate traffic, a way to improve our mobility at not an expensive way to travel. Everybody will be able to travel like this. It is not expensive, and it is meant to satisfy all levels of society. So the current project I'm working on now is a German-Chinese collaboration called Autoflight. This one is the most advanced eVTOL in the world today. And of course, it's incredibly exciting to be working on a project like this. Now, what for me is quite important is what we call this hidden element, this hidden factor that that products can have when you give them this they call it in French je ne sais quoi, element that makes a product attractive. How do you design a product to attract the customer, to make that product sell above the competition? And we all know the truth in the fact that design sells. So it's very important to bring uniqueness, to bring character, to bring a certain element of beauty, a certain element of passion, a certain element of love to the design of your vehicle. And regretfully, too many companies today, they don't know how to do it. It's true. You look at the slide I'm showing you, there are 24 manufacturers in this slide here. They're all in white, of course, but you cannot tell which company made which car. They're too similar. There's not enough uniqueness, not enough character in design today. So what makes a product unique? What makes a product iconic? I don't believe it is just the beauty of the product that is too superficial. We need to give not just beauty, but a level of functionality, a level of performance. They say that form follows function. It's not true. Form is function. If a product works or functions very well, it will look beautiful. We know this because we look in nature. Nature doesn't design anything to be beautiful. It designs it to be functionable, to live, to survive, to continue evolution. And that is why they actually look beautiful. If we look into the past of my specialty cars, you will see that the very iconic cars, the ones that have stood the test of time, are cars designed for a function. So the first Mini, 1959, this car was not designed to look beautiful. It was designed to carry 4 adults for a bit further than normal. For these days, you could go from one side of the country to the next side of the country with 4 adults and luggage, not a lot of luggage, but enough luggage, and a very tight, small car that was very economical. And the Mini became very, very successful, and until the end of last century, it was probably one of the most iconic, recognizable, most loved cars in the world. That is obviously this one that you see. Then the next one that is, for me, probably, if not the most, probably the second most, at least 1 or 2, in the world for beauty. And this car is the 1961 Jaguar E-Type. This car is very special for me because it was not designed. This car was not designed. It was engineered by a gentleman called Malcolm Sayer, who was an aerodynamicist. He was an engineer. He had nothing to do with training for design. He designed the car to be very aerodynamic. Of course, they didn't have the knowledge then that we have today, but for him, this was an epitome, a very high level of aerodynamic design. And for today, that is probably still one of the most beautiful, one of the most recognized, and one of the most iconic designs in history. Another one that you can remember very easily is the very original, the 911 Porsche. This car, everybody in the world recognizes it, even if you probably are not the biggest aficionado or connoisseur of cars. The Porsche 911 is one of the most iconic designs. What do these 3 cars have in common? 3 lines. 3 lines means that with any iconic product that we design, we only need 3 lines to show the shape. If you need 4 lines, you need 5 lines, you need more lines, the product loses its simplicity, it loses what we call the recognition factor. So it's very important that any product that we want to be iconic and very well designed, very memorable, needs to have what we call a simplicity to it. Not boring, not simple, but simplicity. It's what many of the old famous people like Da Vinci and these people always stressed. Simplicity is the big secret. So we do this I try to apply this with my designs. You can see even in the past in aviation, the airplanes that are most recognized have very, very unique shapes. The wings on the Spitfire, the elliptical wings, you memorize that plane, you know it immediately. One of the first commercial airliners, the Lockheed Constellation, one of the most beautiful commercial flying aircraft we have ever seen, designed by a designer this time, not by an engineer. The first time they let a designer design an airplane, but you can see the fuselage is much more unusual than the typical sausage or hot dog that we use today. The next one that you can obviously remember is the Concorde, very typical front end, very unique. Some say it's beautiful, some say it's not so beautiful, but you remember this design because it is unique. Of course, the Jumbo, pure function. The plane is perhaps not the most beautiful airplane, but we recognize it, we remember it, designed to carry more passengers than normal. And this plane, of course, will always be one of the most remembered planes in history as well. Now, what I want to say with this next slide is very important. I've always been fascinated by beautiful things. It's been one of my passions for my whole life. Nature, especially nature, is what fascinates me. Cars, of course, architecture, products, furniture, books, all of these things have a beauty to it. They're designed, beautiful things are designed with, like I said, passion and love. I think creating something of beauty is a way of bringing goodness and happiness to the world. These products here do. It's, like I said, beauty is something that is full of optimism, and it is what gives products their immortality, their feeling of timelessness. These products will never go out of fashion. They're timeless. Now, these products, of course, they will outlive their creators. The creators will be long gone, but the products will remain, and they are a gift or a legacy, as we call it, that their creators have given to the world. You see beautiful things with your eyes, but you experience them emotionally. You experience these things not just because they're beautiful, but because they give you a deep feeling of desire, of emotion that is almost like love. That's why we have this expression, love at first sight. You don't feel shocked when you look at something like this for the first time. You immediately feel positive, you feel good about them. And I think it's very important to remember that the outward appearance, the appearance of the aesthetic of something that you look at, this always or should always reveal their internal, what we call their internal spiritual beauty. What is it on the inside, much like a person. And that is why I think beauty is almost like a food for our souls. It's not a luxury. Beauty is absolutely not a luxury. It's more, I would say it's more of a necessity. We need beauty in our lives. So when I said that iconic design is memorable, you remember it, you only have to look at this next slide here to remember or to see that when you look at these faces, I don't even have to tell you who they are. Not that, for example, that one lady is more beautiful than the other lady, or one gentleman is more handsome than the other gentleman, but the fact is that you remember these faces, you know who they are, simply by their character. The other thing that is quite important when we are designing, and I have a very, I don't know if it's a good reputation or a bad thing, but I am extremely attentive to details. I have probably a disease that we call this. I am obsessive compulsive disorder with attention to detail. I notice just about everything, and I am a fanatic about it. Now, the next car, why I'm speaking about this car was designed in 1967, 66, 67 by a gentleman in Italy called Marcello Gandini, and this is the Mona Lisa. This is the Venus de Milo of car design. Every car designer normally puts this on the top of their list of favorite car designs. Why? Because it is pure, it is functional, and it is hugely desirable. Too expensive for everybody, 99.9% of the population, but it's hugely desirable. Marcello designed this to look, I don't want to say like a woman, but he designed this car to be very influenced by sensuality, a very sexy looking car. Well, what you don't notice is the attention to detail that he gave this car. The headlights on this car are designed just like the eyes of a beautiful woman, the eyelashes. Normally, nobody looks at this detail, but if you were to look at this detail of headlight on the car, you will appreciate the detail, the attention, the love he gave this design. Many elements on this car like this. You spend one day looking at the car and you need more, but it's absolutely amazing. Now, I designed the Mini Cooper, the new Mini Cooper in 2000, the new one that replaced the one I showed before. And I was also inspired on some elements of detail. This is not to be serious, but it's the truth. For the exhaust pipe of the new Mini, I was inspired by the Budweiser beer can. And it became very a nice element of design that people were saying how beautiful the exhaust pipe of the new Mini is. I was not allowed to tell them that I used the press. I was not allowed to say that I used the Budweiser can as my inspiration, but you can see that inspiration comes from many different areas. And of course, there are many different types of beauty in things that we have around us. We're all born with a sense of creativity. We all have this capacity to bring beautiful things to life. And like I said, there's this wide range of what we personally can say is beautiful, but in the end, the result of this is the truth is that beautiful things will endure, will last over a long time. They have the potential to make or to create things that, or designs that do become iconic in the future. Now, if we look at this, for example, like I said, I'm extremely enthusiastic and extremely passionate about nature. And nature has always been my inspiration for design. It makes things long-lasting. Nature doesn't go out of fashion. It is consistently the best design we can use in terms of function and aesthetics for anything that we as humans design. You can see all these images. First one very pleasant to look at. This one a little bit more aggressive, but nobody can say this is an unattractive organism. You can see the beauty that we have around us in, for example, the display of colors, the fish that we have in the sea, amazing performances. This is the flying fish. And what amazes me not so much is the shape or the function of this fish, but the colors of this fish. We cannot even achieve this as humans, this type of color from blue to silver, the way they use it for camouflage, for protection. Even this type of beauty here, amazing. The jellyfish, the man of war, Portuguese man of war, very dangerous, but still incredibly attractive. We look in the world around us in nature, beautiful flowers, but also dangerous plants, dangerous flowers, still always inherently in their design are beautiful. The fruits we eat, the things we eat, all have this very uniqueness to them, very strong colors, very desirable. Now, if you're inspired by nature, as I was, for example, on some of my designs, you can look at this slide here. This is the Akalteke. This is a very, very unique horse. I don't know if you know it, but it is actually in Turkey. It's from Turkey as well as Turkmenistan. They have the Akalteke as one of the most unusual but most beautiful horses around. This horse 100 years ago looked fantastic, and I guarantee you 100 years from now, the horse will still leave people breathless. It's breathtaking, as we say. Now, when we say we're inspired by nature, when I designed the Mini, I was inspired by the British Bulldog. Because the Mini is an iconic British product, I wanted to use the inspiration from something that was also iconically British, the Bulldog. And so I gave the new Mini the stance, the impression, the feeling of something like this. Not a dog that you would just pet, you'd be careful with it, but it's a serious, lovable dog, lovable impression for the Mini. When I did the one at the end of my career in automotive design, the P1, extremely rare car, this one, but I was inspired by the fish, which is the fastest fish in the sea. And I took a lot of elements from the sailfish, and I used these elements, the skin, the scales, little aerodynamic or actually hydrodynamic elements. I put those on the car itself as well to increase the efficiency. And you can see how this inspiration from nature, how nature is so dramatic sometimes, so outstandingly beautiful to look at. It works also in design. The failure that we have currently is that we are trending towards minimalism, and minimalism for me is not a nice way to go. If you lived in a house like this, which many people like or prefer, it starts to lose character. It starts to lose the appreciation of beauty that we have. If you look at this picture here, you will immediately be staring, I am sure, at one building, the one in the middle, not the ones on the side. And the ones on the middle, in the middle, is the one that has all the love, the detail, the quality of workmanship. Just like if you look at something that is what we call oversimplified, the new modern door handle. You cannot love a door handle like that. The one on the left, this one you fall in love with. You appreciate the attention to detail, the craftsmanship, the artisticness of it. So it's much stronger. I think this is the way in the future we should be heading. If you look at the old telephone boxes we had in England, very recognizable. You want to go inside the telephone box to call your grandmother. The one on the right, in the middle, you don't want to use it. The one on the right, this is what we have today. And is it better? For sure it's better. It has more innovation, more technology, very easy to use. But which one is something that you would put in your garden to look at, to observe, even if you don't want to use it? Probably I would not mind having the English phone box in my garden. Another thing we have to be careful in design is repetition. If you repeat, it becomes static. It's not moving the game onwards. It's not giving you a personal feeling of pride of ownership, as we call it. The other important thing, I think, is that we bring out the nationalities of design. You look at this building here. It's a quite new building. It's the Museum of the Future in Dubai. And they had a choice of many, many designs to create this Museum of the Future. They chose a design that used the culture, the Arabic culture. You can see the windows are all calligraphy, Arabic calligraphy. It's an amazing building. If you have a chance to see it, I very highly recommend going there and appreciating not just what's on the inside, but also on the outside of the building, this amazing architecture. And you know very well this one here, this is the Tulip Tower, the control tower at the airport, at your incredibly beautiful airport here in Istanbul. And we, or you perhaps know it, I don't think the world knows it so well, but the inspiration behind this tower, designed by Pininfarina, by the way, is the tulip. And people, when they think of the flower, the tulip flower, they think of the Dutch, they think of Netherlands. But you know the truth of the history of the tulip is actually from Turkey. It's a part of your cultural heritage. And this really works well in that sense. Now, I will finish quickly. The future is, for me, optimistic. I have a very lucky position. I'm very, very happy with what I do as a profession. I have the possibility to dream what I design, and then to design what I dream. I can dream at night, wake up, and work in the morning on what I imagine. So it's a very creative way to be able to live and to get a lot of satisfaction in that sense. But do not worry, the future, I think, of design is safe if we continue to educate the younger people, in the sense that we have to be very careful that we give a strong first impression with whatever we design, but we have to remember that in this digital world that we are entering now, very strongly into a digital world, that the most important thing, I think, for young people to understand when they're coming into the professional world is the importance of the human touch, the man-made feel of products, the attention to detail that only the human hand can give. The digital world can be very cold, very isolated, very unfriendly. And if we continue to concentrate on the emotions, on the human touch, I think we will have a better future for all of us and for all of our children. Çok teşekkür ederim. Sorry. Thank you.